Imagine making passive income from Airbnb rentals without ever buying a property, just renting and then subleasing it nightly through Airbnb. A few years ago, this strategy was really taking off and really one of the go-to strategies for anyone who wanted to break into the short-term rental game here in Toronto without taking on the big commitment of buying a property. This was referred to as rental arbitrage, and you could easily rent multiple units, list them on Airbnb, and then make some serious money. But today, things have changed. In this video, I'm going to break down why Airbnb rental arbitrage no longer works here in Toronto and what you should be thinking about instead if you're looking to make real profits through Airbnb here in the city. Whether you're a potential investor, a first-time homebuyer, or just exploring the short-term rental market, this is the info you need to know. What's up, everyone? For those of you who are new here, my name is fNK&x. I'm a real estate broker here in Toronto. My passion is helping people navigate the complex world of real estate, whether you're looking to buy, sell, or invest. And one of the biggest topics I get questions about here in the city is short-term rentals, specifically Airbnb. I'm here to give you all the facts, that way you can make the smartest and best decision possible if you are thinking about getting into the world of Airbnb or short-term rentals. So if you do have any questions at any point in this video, you can reach out to me using any of my contact information below, and I'd be more than happy to help. Okay, so before we jump into why things have shifted, let's talk about why rental arbitrage was such a big deal here in Toronto, especially pre-COVID. A few years ago, Toronto was a rental arbitrage hotspot, just like many of the other major cities around the world. At one point, there were almost 12,000 Airbnbs operating in the city of Toronto alone, and a large chunk of those properties were through this rental arbitrage system. People would rent condos, often several at a time, and list them on Airbnb to generate a pretty decent profit. In fact, some individuals had as many as 5, 10, or even 20 units under management. And it wasn't just individual operators. There were entire companies managing hundreds of Airbnbs all across Toronto. It just made sense. For one, you didn't need to buy the property or lock up hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was a low commitment way to get into the Airbnb market, and because short-term rentals were in such high demand, the returns were really, really good. With really low startup costs, pretty much just the furniture, and then really high rental income potential, it seemed like the perfect opportunity for anyone looking to enter the market and make a little bit of side income without ever having to purchase any real estate. Fast forward to today, and things are completely different. Toronto's government has introduced a bunch of new rules and regulations that have pretty much shut down rental arbitrage in the city. And here's the most important one. You can only legally list a property on Airbnb if it's your primary residence. This means you're not allowed to rent a condo from a landlord just to sublease it on Airbnb, even if the landlord agrees to it. Also, if you do end up renting a unit and it actually is your primary residence, you could only have one active listing at a time. This pretty much kills any opportunity to run multiple units, which was where the real profit was coming from. So if you're thinking of renting a condo just to put it on Airbnb, you can't do that legally anymore. Even if you're living in the unit, you're still limited to just the one listing. Most people running a rental arbitrage in the past had 5, 10, or even more units, and that's what made it really profitable, especially because you have zero equity in these properties. So you're depending purely on the cash flow for your profits. Without the ability to scale up, the whole thing kind of just falls apart. And trust me, the city is enforcing these rules, and Airbnb has also cracked down to make sure their hosts are following the local laws. So it's not something you can just bypass anymore. It's risky and it's not worth the hassle. Sure, some people are still making it work with a single unit, but you're looking at significantly reduced profits, not to mention the increased risk of violating city bylaws and facing penalties. So not only do the new rules make it harder to profit from rental arbitrage, but they also significantly increase your chances of getting caught if you try to work around them. So in short, the rental arbitrage model that worked so well in the past is no longer a viable option here in the city of Toronto. Now, rules and regulations aside, let's break down the numbers because this is where things get really clear. Let's say after all you've seen so far, you still decide to do this with just one rental unit, which will be your primary residence. Let's use a 1-bedroom condo, the cheapest option, as an example. The average rent for a 1-bedroom condo in Toronto right now is around $2,500 per month, which is $30,000 for the year. If you listed the same condo on Airbnb, you could potentially charge between $200 and $250 per night, but remember you're limited to 180 rental nights per year due to Toronto's most up-to-date short-term rental regulations. That gives you an annual income on average of about $41,000. At first, that might look like a decent profit, right? You make $41,000, you pay $30,000 in rent, and you're left with $11,000. Not bad, right? But remember, that's before any expenses. You still have cleaning fees, utilities, Airbnb's platform fees, maintenance costs, and then the occasional vacancy as well. After all that, you're probably looking at maybe $5,000 a year in profit if you're lucky. Now, some people might be okay with this amount. I mean, that could essentially cover your one vacation for the year. But let's put things into perspective. Without the ability to scale up and rent multiple properties, that's all you're making from a single unit. In my opinion, it's just not enough to justify all the effort or the risk. In the past, running 10 Airbnbs might have given you significant income, but now with only one legal listing, it's tough to see how rental arbitrage could still be worth it. So if this strategy is kind of off the table and you want to get into the short-term rental market, what's the alternative? This is where buying a property really starts to shine. I know it's a bigger commitment and investment upfront, but the long-term rewards are way better. When you own the property, not only do you have control over the listing, but you're also building equity and benefiting from property appreciation over time, along with the short-term rental income that you may bring in. So let's look at the numbers for owning a 1-bedroom condo in Toronto and compare it with the rental arbitrage. Right now, a typical 1-bedroom costs around $550,000. With a traditional 80% mortgage and a 20% down payment, your monthly mortgage payments would be about $2,200 per month. Add in maintenance fees and property taxes, and your total cost comes to around $2,700 or $2,800 per month. Yes, this is a little bit more than rent, and you need about $100,000 up front. But here's the thing, you're still able to list that property on Airbnb, make that same $200 to $250 per night. Over the course of 180 nights per year, you're making on average around $41,000, again, just like you would with rental arbitrage. But here's the difference. You're not just pocketing a small profit. You're paying off your mortgage. Well, technically someone else's. You're building equity and your property is appreciating in value, especially in a market like Toronto, where condo prices have dipped but are expected to recover over the next few years. Over time, the value of your investment grows, and you're getting all this while Airbnb essentially covers pretty much all of your costs. In a rental, if you end up breaking even after all of your expenses, you pretty much gain nothing. If anything, you've lost your time and effort. If you break even in an owned unit, you still win because you're essentially getting to hold onto that condo unit for free. Now let's take this a step further with a 1+ den or a 2-bedroom unit. A 1+ den will cost you around $650,000 on average right now, with monthly mortgage payments around $2,600 per month plus maintenance and taxes, bringing it to about $3,100 a month. But with a second bed, you can easily charge $300 to $350 a night, bringing in about $59,000 annually, and your gross profit would be around $20,000 a year. And those numbers can get even better once you've built up some good reviews and your listing gains more traction. This is where owning the property becomes truly powerful. You're covering all your costs and still generating a relatively healthy profit. And remember, you're also building wealth through appreciation. And yes, I get it. You do need quite a bit more money upfront when you're buying. And in my example, I used a traditional 20% down payment, but here's the thing. You can actually buy a condo in Toronto with as little as 5% down. For an average 1-bedroom condo, that's around $35,000 to $40,000, and that includes all of your closing costs. If you're interested in getting started with a smaller unit and want to know everything that goes into that process, I've actually made an entire video on that topic, and you can check it out right here. Now, if this sounds like a better option to you rather than trying the rental arbitrage system, that's because it is. Buying a property and listing it on Airbnb is a smart long-term investment strategy, and I can help you every step of the way. I've worked with tons of investors and first-time homebuyers and have guided them to the best areas to buy, the most profitable buildings, and the units with the best short-term rental potential. I can guide you through the entire process. Buying a property and listing it on Airbnb is, in my opinion, the only way to go if you are interested in getting into the short-term rental game. I can help you run the numbers, analyze potential returns, and can even assist you with the setup once you've purchased the property. From finding the perfect property to furnishing it and getting those all-important first reviews, I can make sure your short-term rental gets off on the right foot. Toronto's market has a ton of potential, and with the right strategy, you can make a smart investment that pays off now and in the future. So if you've been thinking about getting started with Airbnb and purchasing a condo unit seems like something you may be interested in exploring, you can reach out to me using any of my contact information below, and we can talk about how to make it happen. Thanks again for watching. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more tips on buying, selling, and investing in Toronto real estate. And if you're thinking about starting an Airbnb or have any other real estate questions, leave a comment or reach out directly using my contact info in the description below, and I'm here to help. I'll see you guys on the next video.